Grammy Awards, an annual tradition where the National Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences Committee tells us what the best songs, producers, and musical moments of the year were. There's one category in particular, the coveted Album of the Year award, that is subject to constant backlash for its outlandish result seemingly every year. But have the Grammys been wrong since its beginning when the award ceremony was first established? Or is there an element of recency bias that's clouding our overarching view of the institution as a whole? Well, to find out, I listened to every single Album of the Year winner the Grammys have ever awarded since it started handing out awards in 1959. So by definition, what is considered Album of the Year material by the Grammys? According to the Academy, it awards Album of the Year by such standards to honor artistic achievement, technical proficiency, and overall excellence in the recording industry, without regard to album sales, chart position, or critical reception. And as much as we know that's probably a lie, I'm going to be giving the Grammys a standing chance, and I'm ranking each Album of the Year winner by the following tiers. So at the very top we have S tier, goated pick, Grammys, you did your thing. I want to emphasize that this is a category that does not necessarily mean I believe the album is perfect, but this tier is reserved for special, iconic albums that have withstood the test of time and are just of the utmost highest quality, whether that be through their songwriting, their production, or just their overall enjoyability. In this tier, I think the Academy picks the clear, near definitive winner that successfully met the criteria that they set out to honor. And just below that, we have A tier, a valid pick, solid album. These are still great, amazing, enjoyable albums that maybe don't reach the legendary status of an S tier album for me for one reason or another, but I can still see why the Grammys awarded this Album of the Year. And I think you could find a large group of rational minds that would probably vouch for this as a good Album of the Year pick. B tier, okay? Sure, okay? Sure. These are albums that, maybe just the nominees altogether weren't the best, or I'm just kind of so in the middle, meh about. Don't really have too strong of an opinion about it. I'd see it go either way, kind of. And second to last, we have C tier, which is, what exactly are we doing here? There were better picks in front of you for sure, / not really my thing. And lastly, we have a special final tier, D tier. You had the experts of the modern music industry vote for an album and you still chose wrong. Did you even listen to the album or any of the nominees, or were you just bribed by record executives, thereby fueling a growing conspiracy theory about the Record Academy as a whole? So pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to try my best to keep album comparisons within the category to its fellow nominees. My reason being there are an infinite amount of incredible albums that didn't make the final nominations for any given year you could pick. For example, do I think this album or even this album should have deserved at least a nomination for Album of the Year? Well, yeah, of course. You can pick any of these albums and I think they should have deserved a nomination. But would the Grammys ever let this kind of album win? No, of course not. Alright, so now that that's settled, let's go back to the very first Grammy Awards ever in history. This is 1959. Yeah, I wasn't lying. We're really starting from the very beginning. This is the only award ceremony from the 1950s. 1959, the music from Peter Gunn. And for the sake of this video and for this whole experiment, we are going to be talking about these very old albums, even in 2025. And I don't have really much to say about it. It's just a pleasant little jazz album, nothing crazy or inoffensive. I guess my only piece of commentary would be, I like the glockenspiel / vibraphone. I'm not really sure exactly what instrument they're using. I like the little hits that makes it feel warm. Yeah, nothing too special, but what can you expect from a 1950s jazz soundtrack? And the theme song is pretty iconic. It's one of those songs that you definitely have heard of just being online or being exposed to any piece of media, but you don't really know the name of. But aside from that, not too much that's very memorable about this album. So yeah, for that reason, I would just put it in the E tier. Okay, sure. Long gone are the 1950s. Award ceremonies were into the 1960s now, and we're kicking off the 1960s with Dance With Me. It's Frank Sinatra, no-tune, big Broadway production type of feelings to these songs. Are they bad? No, but after 16 tracks, despite how short these songs are, averaging about 1 to 2 minutes per song, honestly, it just gets a little stale after listening to a whole record of what feels like the same song just being recycled over and over again across its 41-minute runtime. So not bad at all. Big band, horn hits, just gets a little fatigued after a while, and that's really the main issue with this album. So yeah, for that reason, I would just put it in the C, just underneath, just not really my thing. All right, 1961, The Button-Down Mind of Bob Newhart. And yes, your eyes are not deceiving you. This is indeed a stand-up comedy album. And I'm not big into the comedy sphere, but I presume Bob Newhart is a bit of a legend or has deemed sort of this icon status in that sphere. And it was refreshing to hear some more intellectual, clean joke-telling that's based in historical events and observational humor. I'm not sure if it was the outdated jargon or just the fact that I'm not really a history buff or a mix of both, that not all the jokes landed for me personally, but the crowd certainly seemed to love every minute of it. It felt like a very intimate space, like a small comedy club, and from what I've heard, I guess those venues sometimes hit a little bit harder even than the big stadium arena type venues. So yeah, not personally my thing, not exactly music per se. But then again, what is music? Hard to answer. So yeah, I would just put it in the C once again. 1962, Judy at Carnegie Hall. Again, a lot of show tune, live feel, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's these kinds of records that don't do very much emotionally for me, but it makes sense why. You kind of have to just be there in that time, in that context, you know, immersed in the culture and the intersection of film and music to truly appreciate this kind of performance. But that being said, I still did enjoy quite a lot of the performances here. My favorite aspect of this album, which is also what contributes to its live feel, was the interludes, honestly. And these are just like the speaking parts of Judy Garland, introducing each song and the stories that she's telling within the song. And I liked it just because it felt like a little time capsule that reveals more of her personality and humanity aside from being this big star or this idol. And I mean, she tells it in a very conversational way. She's telling stories about where a news reporter from the UK sort of butters her up in person and then calls her fat in the newspapers the very next day. It's interesting how there's a narrative theme that links or ropes all these songs together, especially the back half. The ending couple tracks of this album, you have the instrumental Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Oftentimes it's just the horns or the strings playing the thematic melodic line, especially towards the back half of the record. And I guess the modern equivalent, it's kind of like Travis Scott decided to spam perform Fiend over and over again at his concert. Oh, he did do that. Oh, never mind. So yeah, I mean, I guess you'll notice a lot of these early records, they kind of just go in between borderline tiers for me. We'll put this one a little bit higher. We'll put this in the B tier here. Right, 1963. The First Family. And once again, your eyes are not deceiving you. This is another comedy album, another stand-up comedy album. And to me, this is kind of like the podcast version of Saturday Night Live. So we have a cast of impressionists impersonating the Kennedy family, the Kennedy presidential family. And there's actually some moments that are kind of funny. And I exhaled from my nose a couple times. So essentially we have JFK or John F. Kennedy as the serious father figure who uses economics and policy rationale to explain household worries in the White House, like how all the bathtub toys need to be divided up, or how much money each ambassador or political leader owes him at a correspondence lunch meeting. So politically it's satirical, and being someone who knows absolutely nothing about history, government, political science, I still understood, I think, most of it. It's meant for a lay audience like me who's out of the loop with these things. And I hate to use this card so early, but you know, you may be wondering at this point in the tier list, was there just a shortage of music this time? No, not exactly. So yeah, just a bit of a strange pick to be album of the year, but I did enjoy listening to some of it, so I mean, I can't deny that. So yeah, I mean, I don't really mind putting it in the B, even if it's not really music per se, once again. All right, 1964, the Barbra Streisand album. We just do a bit of a case study why every antique shop and used record store in America just has no shortage of only Barbra Streisand records, and it just amazes me until I listen to this album. And again, very much in the same style of classic female pop singer sort of template that we're using. Nothing too unique or special. The singing performances were definitely more expressive and a bit wilder. I mean, as wild as you could get from a 1960s pop album. But yeah, nothing jaw-dropping about this. Oh, and how can I forget what is possibly the most racist song I've ever heard, Come to the Supermarket in Old Peking. Just could not believe the lyrics and the sound effects to this very song, very much jabbing at Oriental core kind of music. So yeah, not that you have like an amazing selection of nominees for this year, but there's definitely no shortage of better albums, I would say. Uninspired, and you know what, just for that one song, I'll put it in the D tier. So bouncing back from that, we have 1965, Gilberto. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but just wow. This album is a classic. I love the inclusion of a Latin jazz, bossa nova samba record, winning album of the year, and it's very much deserved. So this is a great entry into the world of jazz and I guess you could say international music. And we have Stan Getz displaying an absolute mastery of the saxophone. I love his articulation in his playing and how smooth and yet expressive his playing is. There's just so much character to it, and I love hearing all the little breathy tones and even the small nuances like the squeak of his reed when he hits some of the upper register notes in his playing. So everything from the guitar rhythms to the vocals, just incredibly smooth. You can play this at a dinner party, you can play this while cleaning the house, in the car. This is a very friendly music to play in front of other people kind of album, but there's still so much musical merit to this album, I feel like. So yeah, just a great pick. Maybe too sleepy for some, but for me, I feel like it's going in the S tier. Alright, 1966, we have September of My Years. The first half is actually quite promising. This album is front-loaded with some great Sinatra songs, honestly. I like the more emotionally tense and dramatic moments on this album. By the end of the album, however, the songs are a bit more forgettable, and that's really just my biggest gripe with these earlier records in general, is that there's just a little bit too much homogeneity that gives the listener a little bit too much fatigue by the end. Not that the quality is necessarily sacrificed, but just my personal belief. And I do think this album is a little bit more interesting than Come Dance With Me, and I can see myself coming back to this album a little bit more than that record. So yeah, for that reason, I'll put it above the first Sinatra pick. I'll put it in the B tier. Alright, 1967, A Man and His Music. I hope you're not Sinatra'd out by this point. Your eyes are not deceiving you once again. This is the third album of the year win from Frank Sinatra. I mean, there's some heavy hitters on this album. You know, Sinatra did a lot for putting long form music onto pressing vinyl and putting this sort of long play concept on the map, you know, pressing it to wax. But as many notable songs there are on this album, there's also what feels like a little bit too much fluff, a little bit too much filler. Interestingly, he gets surprisingly meta with some of these songs, starting with a pre-song commentary, and he's talking about everything from his come up to the recording process and how he deals with the pressure, the fame, and just really all of his observations about the music industry. And there's even a strange stand-up comedy performance a bit later on the second disc. So yeah, not a bad album. I think it suffers from the same condition as the first Sinatra nomination. I'm just a little bit too much fatigue after nearly 2 hours of 2-minute ditties. So if it weren't for the extra bloat, I would put this album a little bit higher. So yeah, I'm a little bit on the fence, but I would probably just keep it in the C tier, just as an album listening experience as a whole. Alright, we've arrived in 1968, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Obviously, solid, iconic Beatles album. If you want my full thoughts and opinions about this album, not that you want to hear that, but I made an entire video ranking every single Beatles album, every studio release. So hopefully I figure out a way to put it in the icon or check the description if you want a more comprehensive telling of my Beatles opinions. But yeah, pretty self-explanatory ranking. So while not my favorite Beatles album, I would put it in the S tier. Alright, and this is the last album from the 60s award ceremonies. This is 1969, By the Time I Get to Phoenix. And it's always been a mystery to me why musicians and artists have clung to this title, By the Time I Get to Phoenix. there's an Isaac Hayes cover of this song, there's a Nick Cave version, and even the final Injury Reserve album too has the same title. So if someone knows the full lore, feel free to drop it in the comments below. I'd really love to learn more about that. Yeah, in terms of this album by Glen Campbell, for those that say, oh, I don't listen to country music, oh, I don't really like country music that much, it's records like these that make me think they're just a little bit crazy. Obviously, I know what kind of country music they're talking about. It's the newer generation boilerplate country with a strong twang in the vocals that they have a disdain for, and so do I for the most part as well. But if you look at the genre's roots in classic country albums like this one, or even like an early Johnny Cash album, for example, I mean, sure, you have some tracks that creep into the signature country 1-2 shuffle drum groove, but I mean, these are just great love songs at the end of the day, some being blue, heartbroken, lonely. At the core of it, they're really just beautifully written songs separate from the genre tag of country. So yeah, unfortunately, you know, you have just one bad apple of a modern bro country artist or album that subverts the reputation of the whole batch of the genre, or in this case, the umbrella of country music, when in reality, it's albums like this one that I think are completely digestible for any listener. So yeah, while it may be the underrated Glen Campbell pick, I don't feel too uncomfortable putting it in the A. Okay, I think that's going to be it for this video. As you can tell, yes, there's a lot of albums that I have yet to cover, but I've noticed I've been recording for over an hour and we haven't gotten to the 80s, we haven't gotten to the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 2020s. So I think I'm just going to make this into sort of a multi-part series, and this is really for the best because when it comes to the more contemporary albums, when I was paying attention to the Grammys a little bit more in the 2020s, I think I'll have a little bit more to say with those albums as well. So I want to dedicate a video to those later releases. But yeah, let me know in the comments below what you think about the Grammys as a whole. Should we trust their opinions? Are they outdated? And if obviously they are, why? Let me know if you agree with any of the picks that the Grammys have chosen up until this point. What are some albums that you think were complete snubs, even in this earlier time period? And subscribe if you want to see the albums that are a bit more closer to the present as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.